welcome to all of you. I thought we could start off with are you seeing any acceleration in the economic situation in the country, and where do we go from here?
So I think the economy has performed better than expected. I think the second quarter GDP is the proof of that. And so after that, we've seen a number of upgrades for growth take place from the RPI. So our own forecast is now at minus 7.7% contraction compared to minus 9% earlier. So this is, I think, as I said, one, because of the better performance of Q2. Second, I think is in general, I think if you look at the virus load in the second quarter versus the first quarter, I think it was at almost 10 times, I mean, in terms of per million penetration. But still, I think the restrictions were being eased, and people were also learning to live with the virus. I mean, so that attitude has also helped the economy come up. The pent-up demand has also been on the positive side. And I think the most positive news, of course, is that the COVID curve has remained under control for quite some time. But I think, having said that, I would say that the right now the current data trends somewhat show positivity, though there is the speed with which they were rising in September and October has slowed down a little bit. Having said that, I think I just want to point out that the recovery that is taking place is not uniform. It's not symmetric across sectors. What we find is the smaller firms have been hit much larger than the larger firms. And I think what this also means is that the next level of stress from a non-performing asset point of view could arise more from the smaller firms. I think the first round that we saw earlier of NPA increase 2-3 years back, I think that was largely led by large firms. Second, I think what we are also seeing is that industry or manufacturing is far more resilient than services. And I think the pickup that is taking place in the economy is, I think, largely manufacturing led, although the services are trying to claw back. But as long as the fear of virus to some extent remains, it can only go away either through vaccination or through herd immunity. Till the time we get that, the services, contact-based services, will continue to suffer from residual anxieties.
This budget will be epoch-making, and lot of innovation will be seen. Government is extensively preparing for the coming budget. The focus on infrastructure spend will continue. The disinvestment target is on the right path, and the resource generation on GST has also improved. We have seen certain reports, IIP, etc., in the October month and November month. They have shown healthy recovery. Though this is a tough time, but we are seeing the confidence of global economy on the India, and therefore we are seeing higher flow of funds to in the capital market and even other ways also. And we have good foreign exchange reserves. So these things, the government is also focusing on manufacturing. This is the right way. The government has also negotiating on the bilateral trade. There was some confusion on the issue about Atmanirbhar Bharat, whether we will be going back to the closed economy. That has been now clarified by the government. Even the Prime Minister has said that Atmanirbhar Bharat is nothing to do only from reverse globalization, but it has to do more about strengthening our manufacturing sector. Government is working on 4 important policies that will further boost the manufacturing sector. These are about the industrial policy, then the new logistical policy, which is hampering the manufacturing for a long time, is also on the cards. Even e-commerce policy and the retail trade policy and the foreign trade policy is also where the government is working. So our focus is mainly 2 ways. One is strengthening our manufacturing. Strengthening our manufacturing requires that our they get a level playing field for becoming global competitive, and for that they require that the factors of production are in sync with the global parameters. So logistic is one focus. Then interest rate has come down. RBI is doing its job. Liquidity is being pushed so that they don't have a resource crunch. And about labor reforms, already the government has announced, and its notification, it will be notified and will be applicable from April 2021, which was a major demand. Agriculture sector reforms, the government is now committed to bring private investment into the agriculture marketing, even on the opening of the agriculture mandis. They are also will help the growth of and investment into the agriculture sector. FPO issues are there.
Okay.
So focus on agriculture, focus on manufacturing, creating level playing field, improving factors of production, and at the same time also helping through government spending. Government has committed that though in spite of risk of inflation, etc., we will not be bogged down by any government investment and fiscal constraint. Government will continue its spending.
I'm just starting with the one data of the time series, and this is last 10 quarters GDP data. 7.1%, 6.2%, 5.6%, 5.7%, 5.2%, 4.4%, 4.1%, 3.1%, minus 23.9%, and minus 7.5%. The GDP time series is like this. With this data, I'm asking a very fundamental question, that without any new investment in the economy, can any economy of the world revive? The answer is big no. And in our economy, the investment comes either from the household investments or private investments or public investment. And I will make one sentence on each. As far as household investment is concerned, there is a CMIE data, we call that as economics of hope. And I am surprised, and I think most of you are aware of that in October month of 2020, 6.6% of the households felt that proportion of household with hope of better income, which got further reduced in the month of November, that is 5.2%. Means 95% or more than 95% of the households feel that next month we will be having more resource constraint, more resource crunch. So they are not going to invest in this type of scenario. Once upon a time, this economics of hope was around 30% or 40%, and during UPA it was 50% also. Means 50% of households felt that time that next month their income is going to go up. This is the point number one. So in this scenario, how households are going to make investment is a big question. Now coming to private investment, mind it, households plus private constitute something around 75% of gross fixed capital formation. So I'm talking about 75% and then 25% of the public investment or government investment. In private investment, I am asking a very fundamental question, that when credit growths are not taking place, when the growth in credit is all-time low, how a private investment can pick up? Household investment is not picking up because there is no hope in the household earners. Private investment is not picking up, that data is reflected because there is no credit growth in the banking industry. And last but not least is the public investment. During this pandemic times, and this is the government data, only capex in the first 6 months of the current fiscal, that is FY21, 40% of capex got invested. It means government is not putting the money in capex, private sector is not investing in the capex, household incomes, they are not seeing a positivity, and all these are reflected in the unemployment. As per the same Center for Monitoring of Indian Economy, in the month of November, and I repeat, only November, 35 lakh people had lost a job. In the month of October, it was that. So there is job market is not picking up, investment is not picking up. Then how can we say this is a recovery?
So I think we need to give a context when we say, is there an economic recovery and what is the outlook looking like in the future? The way I look at it is that even the optimist at the time of the economy announcing the first quarter deceleration of 23% would not have imagined that this is where we would be when we are just about to announce, in the next couple of months, what could be the Q3 growth figures. I think that and I think the gentleman, Professor Vallabh pointed out that even without the pandemic, we had sufficient shocks of economy not bouncing back. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, hypothetically, if COVID had not happened, even in the entire financial year of 2021, we would have done well if we had delivered 5% growth rate. So unfortunately, that is not the situation before us today. And how do I look at it? Whether it's revival or not revival, it could be a very subjective argument. That if we end this year with a negative growth rate between 5 to 7%, it seems like a likely scenario. And for all you know, we may be in for a positive surprise as well. I think we would do well. And I think the test would be how would we look at the economy panning out next year. I would look at 2-3 important factors over here. Number one, it seems unlikely that the moratorium on the IBC would be extended beyond the end of December, in which case by the end of next quarter, even before we start the next fiscal year, it would become evident which are the businesses which are going down the belly. I think the impact of unorganized sector was also mentioned, but the measuring the impact of unorganized sector is a totally different issue altogether. Growth in manufacturing and revival of agriculture has come in at the right time. I would stay positive and feel that if there is a revival of 8 to 9% in the next fiscal year on a lower base, I think we would have done well. I think as the economy recovers from the post-COVID period, what would be critical is to pick up all the pieces and see where, what are the policy directions that are coming through. I mean, clearly it seems to me from the announcements that are coming in that healthcare sector, which we all know has offered tremendous potential, is a sector that would get focus. Government spending, in my view, is very critical. I think one of the challenges we have had, and this is often a temptation with economic policy thinkers, that the moment you see your fiscal deficit figures getting out of control, the easiest way for the government is to pull back the expenditure. And we shouldn't forget the fact that even when the economy was juggling at 5 to 6% and dropped below 5% for 2 quarters, government was still a high, was one of the most, material expenditure or spender, you can call it. I think that, in my view, would also be another determinant, because government spending will play out a role.
Undoubtedly, we have gone through unprecedented crisis and the worst ever quarterly GDP contraction we have seen. But this crisis also gives us an unprecedented opportunity. Our future is in our hand. Let me give you some small examples. If we go by RBI's estimate, Indians spend between 10 to 15 billion dollar on FX travels. More than 2 crore Indians travel every year and spends, as per RBI estimate, 10 to 15 billion dollar. If you look at the spending data of various other governments, this number surprisingly balloons to 15 to 30 billion dollar. Now, because of COVID-19, very few Indians will travel abroad. That money is going to remain in India. And if they spend in domestic tourism or other expenditure, to that extent, our economy benefits. More than 200,000 students go abroad for study. This year, probably there will be significant reduction. Again, as per our data, roughly about $7 billion is spent on sending kids abroad. If you look at the data Of other countries, this number is 10 to 12 billion dollar. Now that money again is going to be saved in India. Can we retain that students into our university? The third thing is gold import. Indians are like Kasturi Mrug. They keep on searching for money all over the world without realizing that there is money lying in India. In last 21 years, Indians have spent $373 billion in net import of gold. 373 billion after excluding gold jewelry, which we have exported. Now we all know gold smuggling is a reality. We also know when travelers are returning from Middle East, how they are decked up in jewelry. Could this number be $500 billion in just 21 years? It is more money that we have sent abroad than what we have received in foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investors. We are like a patient who wants to grow and become healthy, but insists on giving blood donation. How will it grow? Now, COVID-19 has pulled down gold imports, pulled down gold demand, pulled down gold smuggling. That money is going to remain in India. Can we utilize it for investment? Finally, we had $60 billion trade deficit with China. There are APIs which we have to import. We don't make them. But when Amba Mata Murti and Ganesh Murti starts coming from China, we have to question our policies. Due to COVID-19, due to anti-China movement, due to various efforts of businessmen, this year trade deficit with China will come down to probably $30 to $35 billion. It could be even less. Now, to that extent, domestic industry will be supported. Now, can we work on ensuring that our trade deficit with China is contained and my manufacturers don't have to become traders in Chinese goods? The PLI scheme introduced is a step in right direction. We have seen a German company shifting their entire footwear production from China to Agra. We have seen company like Samsung shifting their entire mobile handset making plants to India. Now they are trying to shift their entire color picture tubes or high definition color TV plant from China to India. We have to convert this into a big torrent of companies coming from China to India. In 1980, China and India were of similar size. They became 5 times bigger than us in just 4 decades by becoming manufacturer to the world. God has been kind. It has given us second opportunity to become part of supply chain management. There are interesting trends in chemical sector, in contract manufacturing, but it has to expand further. It has to expand manifold. My feeling is that we went through an unprecedented crisis. There are encouraging trends in certain sectors, as DK mentioned. We are not out of woods for sure. There are sectors in economy which still require support. And if we convert this crisis into an opportunity like 1991, by ensuring that our students study in India, our people travel in India, our people consume goods made in India where it is possible, and we don't misallocate our savings into unproductive assets like gold, and we become part of global supply chain management, then this crisis will definitely lead to a better economic growth.